What is up, you guys? My name is Breyonna, and today we're going to be testing out the brand new BPerfect x Stacey Marie Carnival Volume 3 palette, and this is called Love Tahiti, and I just love the packaging. Like, it is giving me like tropical summer vibes. And if you haven't seen this palette before, she is beautiful. When I saw it, I knew I needed it. Like, I was gonna get it anyways because the Carnival XL Pro palette is literally my favorite palette in my collection. But when I saw this, I was like, this is totally me. You know, it's super bright. There's a lot of neons in here. There's some dual chromes. It's just a really fun palette. So compared to the other Stacey Marie collaborations BPerfect has done, like, this collection was fairly large. I personally didn't get all of the items because honestly, they didn't really fit my style. But I did pick up 2 of the Get Wet highlighters, and I gotta say that the packaging is just really fun and really extra. And this one is in the shade Do You, which is kind of like an icy kind of color. And then the other one that I got is called Skin Sheen, and this one's a little bit more on the blue side, so it's a little bit out there. So before we jump into using the palette, I'm just going to prime my eyelids using my Anastasia eye primer. And I'm doing like maybe like a corn kernel on the back of my hand. And then I'm just going to go in with this brush from Morphe. It's from the Pride collection. I really like this brush. It's kind of like a flat one. And I'm just going to be popping that eye primer all over my eye, just so we have a really good base for those shadows, because we're going to be doing something really bright and super dramatic. I'm trying to figure out like what kind of look I want to do today, because I'll be honest, palettes like this that have a lot of colors in them and like a full-on like rainbow variety, they can be a little bit overwhelming, and you know, just getting like that initial color down makes it a lot easier. So you know what, let's go in with this one called Tahiti, just because the palette is called Love Tahiti. And I'm just going to be applying this right into my crease using this little brush from Morphe. It doesn't have a number on it that I can see, but it's just like a big old fluffy brush. But ooh, that is a pretty purple. But I'm just popping that right into that crease, and then afterwards doing these little tiny circular motions to blend it upwards towards my brow. But ooh, baby, does she have some pigment. Like, I didn't even have to build this up. Like, this is only one layer, which is really nice. And I'm gonna go in with a second layer. So it seems like it just makes it look a little bit more like the pan, but you don't even have to build up this shade if you don't want to, which is pretty nice. And I'm also kind of like feathering it out in this outer portion right here. I'm like really like kind of like winging it out, just because I want to do something fairly dramatic. I'm trying to figure out if I want to go in with magenta or fruity, but like magenta has like this really cool like almost like neon pop to it, whereas fruity has a little bit more purple. You know what, let's just go in with magenta. And I'm just going to be taking it on this Anastasia A10 blending brush. And again, I'm just applying that right into my crease, just to get more definition in there. As you guys know, I love a really good defined crease. And I'm just going to go in with another layer real quick, just to kind of like deepen it up. Oh yeah, I like this shade. Because it's kind of like a purple, but it has like this neon kind of like pink hue to it. It's a really cool color. I feel like it just kind of like spiced up Tahiti a little bit too. So far though, these 2 shades have been really pigmented, which is so nice. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'm just not in the mood to build up my shadows. And that's when I really like using my Carnival XL Pro palette, just because I know I don't have to sit there and build them up. I know I'm going to get really good quality pigmentation. Okay, but like this purple might be one of my new favorite colors, because it's almost like a pinky purple. I don't know how to explain it, but it just has like that really cool like neon pop to it. It's a really interesting shade. I don't know if I have anything like this in my collection, honestly. You know what, I want a little bit more definition in my crease, so I'm going to go in with this really cool deeper purple shade called Blackberry. Okay, I barely put my brush into the pan, and like look how much is on there. And I'm just gonna go in with this brush from BH Cosmetics. It's a number 6, and it's out of the Lavender Luxe set. And again, I'm just gonna be applying that right into my crease, because I want some drama there. And I'm also just kind of like pressing my brush in there. Like, I'm getting like real up in that. And I'm also kind of like rounding out my outer V. And then once that pigment is in there, I'm just doing these little circular motions to blend it upwards towards my brow. Initially, I thought this shade was going to apply a lot darker, but I'm actually kind of happy it doesn't, because it's going to be a lot easier to control. So I'm just going to do another layer just to kind of like see what happens. Because I kind of want it to look like it does in the pan, because it's kind of like this grungy purple. It's really interesting. But this one is definitely a little bit more of like a blue-based purple. compared to that magenta that we just used. Oh yeah, she definitely builds up. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a sucker for a good purple, and like this shade is just so beautiful. Like these like grungy purples are really hard to find with good formulas. But so far I'm like really happy with this one. Okay, but these purples though, such a beautiful formula. Like I can't get over how pigmented they have been and just how nice they look on the eyes, but granted, I really like purple. But off camera, I'm just gonna quickly cut my crease. I'm just gonna do like a normal cut crease, like nothing fancy. So I'm gonna go about maybe like 3/4 the way onto my lid, and then afterwards, I'll be right back to finish up the lid. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit more of Blackberry on this small shader brush from Lavish just to get rid of that harsh line from that cut crease. And when I'm doing this, I'm like pressing it in just so we don't disrupt that base underneath as well as the cut crease. I just realized a mosquito bit me right here on my face, which is so annoying because I am super allergic to them. Like, I don't know if you're like this too, but when a mosquito bites me, like it completely welts up and it is so painful. But now we're gonna start working on the lid so I can kind of like distract myself from the pain of this. But I'm gonna go in with this kind of like bluish purple shade called Blue Moon. So I'm just gonna take it on this little flat shader brush and I'm just gonna be popping it kind of like in the center half of my lid. Just kind of seeing what is up with this shade. Ooh, that is really cool. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's kind of like a lavender with like blue and purple sparkles to it. Super metallic. And when I'm applying it, I'm really making sure that I am pressing it into that base. And then taking whatever's left on my brush, I'm slightly overlapping it with what we just did in this outer third, just so we get a really nice gradient. So I don't know if you're like this too, but the lime greens right here in this palette just catch my eye every single time that I open it. So you know what, we're gonna go in with this kind of like shimmery version called Tahiti Green. And then using a different flat shader brush dampen, I'm just going to be applying it to the rest of my lid, anywhere that that base is still showing. You know, that is actually applying a lot more yellow than I expected. So I'm gonna like do another layer and see what happens. Oh yeah, she builds up to a lime green though. Wow, that's like a really cool shade. I actually really like it next to Blue Moon. I swatched them next to each other before I applied them and I wasn't 100% sure if they were gonna work. Just because Blue Moon has so much purple to it. Man, just really interesting next to each other. So I'm actually gonna go in with my finger because this little like pocket area is really hard to get a brush in sometimes. And sometimes I just want to get like a little bit more hands-on. But oh yeah, like this shade applied with your finger, like man, like that is so much payoff. And I'm just taking like whatever is left on my finger and slightly overlapping it with Blue Moon. But I just can't get over how electric and neon that green is. Like it looks so awesome. Like look at this. You see what I mean though? Like that is a really cool shade. I really hope that my camera is doing these shimmers justice because in person there is so much dimension in them. They also do not give any fallout. They're really creamy and very easy to work with. But off camera, I'm just gonna like clean up this shape a little bit because I did overblend the edges just a little bit. And I'm also going to apply like my complexion products, you know, like my foundation and all of that. And then afterwards, I'll be right back to finish up the look. So now we're gonna start working on the lower lash line, and I'm first gonna go in with that shade that we used earlier called Tahiti, that kind of like lavender shade. And I'm just gonna be taking it on this Luxie 231 small tapered blending brush. And I'm just gonna be popping this right underneath the lower lash line. And when I'm doing this, I'm doing back and forth motions. And also like connecting it with this outer portion right here. So now we're going to be doing my absolute favorite part, which is the inner corner highlight. And I mean, we could go in with this shade out of the palette, but I do want to use both of the highlighters today. So I'm going to put one on my inner corner and one on my face. And I first want to go in with this one called Skin Sheen. And this is like a bluish kind of gold. And I'm just going to be taking it on this BH Cosmetics number 10 brush out of the Lavender Luxe set. And I'm really like pressing it into that inner corner. Oh, she's so blinding. I actually used this highlight the other day because I could not resist it. Like I just thought it was so beautiful. And then for the rest of the face, I'm just going to go in with the one called Do You. And I'm just going to be taking it on this brush from Sigma. It's an F03. But she's so blinding. I hope my camera's picking it up. But in person, it is like super blinding. Like if you do not like a blinding highlight, you will not like these at all. Like they are just extreme. But they're not glittery. They kind of have like that dewy wet sheen to them. Like this is honestly like the perfect icy highlighter because I don't know about you guys, but I struggle finding a nice icy highlighter that isn't gold nor champagne. And also I don't like icy highlighters that look silver, but honestly this one's just a really nice icy white. But even though it's like a whitish icy, it's not like overpowering, if you know what I mean. You know what actually the formula kind of reminds me of is the Super Shock highlighters from ColourPop. You know what I mean? Like they have like that creaminess in the pan, but when you apply them, they act more like a powder. But I just can't get over how blinding that is. Like it is so wet metallic in person. Okay, but this look is definitely giving me like summer mermaid type of vibes. I don't know if you feel like that too, but I gotta say overall, I've had so much fun using this palette today. Like I just am obsessed with it. And even the packaging is just so beautiful. Like I think this is definitely display worthy. But let's talk about the eyeshadow formula because honestly, at the end of the day, that's what matters. And the mattes in here though, oh my gosh, like they are so beautiful and so pigmented. Like seriously, you don't even have to build them up if you don't want to. So if you're somebody that hates building up your shadows, you will love the formula of these. And honestly, I just had a really good experience with the shadows in this palette today. Like they gave me absolutely no problems. You know, none of the mattes gave me harsh lines. They weren't tricky to work with. And they just had a really nice smoothness on the eyes. And even if you're a beginner, I don't think you're going to struggle with the formula of this palette. Like it was super easy to work with. As for the shimmers that we used today, they seriously are so beautiful on the eye. Like they have a lot of dimension and overall they're very easy to work with. And if you've never used BPerfect shimmer formula, it has kind of like a creaminess to it. So it's very easy to work with and it gives you absolutely no fallout when you apply it. As for the Get Wet highlighters, I do love the effect of these on the skin and they are also very easy to apply and blend out on the face, but honestly they're a little bit overpriced in my opinion. I believe I spent $22 each on them. Like they are definitely up there for a highlighter, and honestly I don't see much of a difference between the formula of these and the ColourPop Super Shock highlighters. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend the BPerfect x Stacey Marie Carnival Volume 3 palette to you guys? And honestly, I definitely recommend checking out this palette, especially if you like brights and neons. Like, I think you're gonna really love the color story of this. And also, if you're looking to try out BPerfect and you don't know where to start and you love really bright colors, I think this palette is a really good one to start with. Because not only do you get a rainbow assortment of shadows, but you also just get a lot of different finishes and textures to play with. You know, you get a lot of mattes, you get some duochromes, you get some shimmers. Just overall, it's a really fun palette. As for the Get Wet highlighters, I would recommend them if you are looking at these and you're like, man, they look really beautiful and I want to try them out. But honestly, I just see no difference between these and the ColourPop Super Shock highlighters. So for me, I would say they're not necessarily worth it because, I mean, you can get these colors through ColourPop and it's a fraction of the price. But yeah, so in the comments down below, let me know what you think about this look right here, and also let me know what you think about this collection. But as always though, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on my Instagram page, it is @Breyonna. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!